it's called The Liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So we're going to hear how um, he became a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and I'm pretty sure he was a Mayavad. Is that right?
We'll find out. We'll find out what he is.
Yeah. Right.
It'll all be introduced.
By the way, Isaac, he's not gonna. He said he doesn't follow so well on Zoom, so he's gonna do some solo reading today, which is unusual for him to say.
Okay. All right.
But it's all right.
It's unfortunate that he's not able to follow, but if he sticks to the reading, then that's good too. Some people do better on their own.
Sure. Yeah.
It's possible. I do both, but I really like this with the group. Okay. So Lord Chaitanya has recently taken sannyas, and he's left his village, his family, and there was a big festival for him. Everybody is missing him. And a small handful of his friends walked with him from Navadvip, Bengal to Jagannath Puri. Okay, so text 40. Anandi, are you in?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, read 5 verses.
After bathing in the sea, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees returned very soon.
Oh no. The Lord then washed his feet and sat down on a carpet to take lunch. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made arrangements to bring various
Sri
kinds.
Chaitanya.
Oh boy, her.
You can't hear me?
No, it seems like your connection is not working again.
All right, so sorry.
Yeah, we want to hear.
Listen.
We want to hear your comments once in a while.
Okay.
But yeah, we're just gonna have to.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so let's see who's next. Suprita, go ahead and read. Let's start with 40 again.
Okay. After bathing in the sea, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees returned very soon. The Lord then washed his feet and sat down on a carpet to take lunch. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made arrangements to bring various kinds of Mahaprasadam from the Jagannath temple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then accepted lunch with great happiness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was offered special rice and first-class vegetables on golden plates. He thus took lunch in the company of his devotees. While Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya personally distributed the prasadam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested him, "Please give me only boiled vegetables." You can offer the cakes and preparations made with condensed milk to all the devotees. Hearing this, Bhattacharya folded his hands and spoke as follows. Today, all of you, please try to taste the lunch just as Lord Jagannatha accepted it.
Okay, now this is what goes on. You may have noticed already. Caitanya Caritamrta is just one feast after another. And people devotees inducing devotees to eat. So here's another trick to get people to eat. He says, this is Jagannath Prasad. Lord Chaitanya said, I'm a sannyasi, just give me simple boiled vegetables. Sarvabhauma says, I'm your host. This is a meditation. This is not ordinary food. Just taste everything the way that Jagannath tasted it. Muchu, you want to read the next 5?
After saying this, he made them. Is this the one?
Yep.
Yeah. He made them eat all the various cakes and condensed milk preparations. After feeding them, 1 second. After feeding them, he offered them water to wash their hands, feet, and mouths. Begging permission from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then went with Gopinath Acharya. After finishing their lunch, they returned to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Offering obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, Namo Narayanaya, I offer my obeisances to Narayan. Hearing these words, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya understood Lord Chaitanya to be a Vaishnava sannyasi. Sarvabhauma
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, this happens a few times. Open up text 48. Part of the translation got cut off and put into the purport.
Oh, yeah. Are you saying that has happened
On the
on your
database.
database? Okay.
Yeah.
Not in the book itself.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, and I've sent them notices, and they thank me, and I guess they're going to fix them. But go ahead, read that verse again, 48.
Offering his obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, Namo Narayanaya, I offer my obeisances to Narayan. In return, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Matirastu, let your attention be on Krishna.
All right, let's read this purport. And poor Spurti, she's just walked in on this, and there's all these names and all these people that she doesn't know. But stay with it, you're going to get it. Do you know who Chaitanya is at all?
Yes.
Oh, what do you know about Chaitanya?
I do know his guru of Srila Prabhupada. The order, if you that's about it.
Okay.
Haven't
So,
read the life story or his sadhana in
yeah, basic thing. He's from Bengal, and he's the one that he was like 500 years ago, and he started the Krishna consciousness movement 500 years ago. Just going out, getting everyone singing the names of Krishna, and he said, look, God is available to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, all lives matter.
Yeah.
He just opened it up to everybody, and he said, you can chant. And he was persecuted for that. They gave him trouble for it, and he said, I don't care, we're doing this. Everybody can chant, everybody can taste Krishna through his name. So that was 500 years ago, and biographers have written about him, and so that's what we're reading from. So he is a Vaishnav. He's dedicated solely to Krishna. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is the Pandit in Jagannath Puri, he is the main Pandit for the king. He's like one of the smartest people in all of Orissa. When he met Lord Chaitanya, he greeted him by saying, Namo Narayanaya. And we're going to read about that in the purport. So go ahead, Mochi, read the purport.
It is the etiquette among sannyasis, those in the fourth platform of spiritual life, to offer respects by saying Om Namo Narayanaya. I offer my respects, full obeisances unto Narayan. This greeting is used, especially by Mayavadi sannyasis.
Just go ahead and finish it off.
According to the Smriti scriptures, a sannyasi should not expect anything from anyone, nor should he consider himself identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vaishnava sannyasis never think of themselves as being one with the Lord. They always consider themselves eternal servants of Krishna, and they want to see everyone in the world become Krishna conscious. For this reason, a Vaishnava sannyasi always offers his blessings to everyone, saying, Krishna Matir Astu, may you become Krishna conscious.
Krishna Matirastu. Okay, so that's your greeting when you're a sannyasi. Okay, so back to the text view. Go ahead on, would you?
That was for, oh yeah.
That was
Hearing these
48.
words, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya understood Lord Chaitanya to be a Vaishnava sannyasi. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then said to Gopinath Acharya, I want to know Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's previous situation.
Trevor, are you ready to read?
Where are we?
Text 51.
Okay.
So Sarvabhauma asked Gopinath Acharya, I want to know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's previous situation. So previous meaning before he took sannyas. And Gopinath Acharya is the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma. And he was Gopinath Acharya was a friend of everybody in Navadvip in Bengal.
Okay.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Gopinath Acharya replied, there was a man named Jagannath who was a resident of Navadvip and whose surname was Mishra Purandara. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the son of that Jagannath Mishra, and his former name is Bishvambar Mishra. He also happens to be the grandson of Nilambar Chakravarti. The Bhattacharya said, Nilambar Chakravarti was a classmate of my father. Maheshwar Bisharad, I knew him as such. Jagannath Mishra Purandara was respected by my father. Thus, because of their relationship with my father, I respect both Jagannath Mishra and Nilambar Chakravarti. Hearing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to the Nadia district, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very pleased and addressed the Lord as follows.
Sporty, do you want to read?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, just 5 verses.
Okay. You're naturally respectable. Besides, you're a sannyasi. Thus, I wish to become your personal servant. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this from the Bhattacharya, he immediately remembered Lord Vishnu and began to speak humbly to him as follows. Because you are a teacher of Vedanta philosophy, you are the master of all the people in the world and their well-wisher as well. You are also the benefactor of all kinds of sannyasis. I'm a young sannyasi and I actually have no knowledge of what is good and what is bad. Therefore, I'm taking shelter of you and accepting you as my spiritual master. I have come here only to associate with you, and I am now taking shelter of you. Will you kindly maintain me in all respects?
These people speak so nicely. Lord Chaitanya, let's see, Sarvabhauma says all these nice things about him, and Lord Chaitanya says, you're a great teacher. I've come here only to take shelter of you. I'm young. He was only 24 years old when he took sannyas. Do you know anybody that's 24? How old are you, Trevor? You're 30.
I'm 24.
You're 24. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm turning 25 in July. So.
Oh, wow. So just imagine at your age taking sannyas.
Oh man. It's crazy.
Of course, yeah. And
But you took it when you were 19, right?
I was 18. I became a brahmachari for 10 years. But taking
So,
that's a lifelong vow.
wow.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had long, beautiful hair. And when they cut it off, it was like everybody was cursing the barber who was cutting the hair, and the barber was, I don't know how I'm doing this. And he was crying. Everybody was crying. Nobody wanted it to happen. but it did happen. And then when he had that shiny shaven head and he wore the saffron clothes, even then he looked beautiful. So not only is he beautiful, he's tall, he's learned, he's renounced. I mean, some people are able to just walk away from things. That's a level of inner strength. So he had all of that. And then here we're seeing he knew how to speak properly, how to speak respectfully. So Sarvabhauma is saying nice things to him. And so he is replying, saying, actually, I'm here only to take shelter of you. I'm accepting you as my spiritual master. I've come here only to associate with you, and I'm now taking shelter of you. Will you kindly maintain me in all respects? And so I'll read on. Text 61. The incident that happened today was a great obstacle for me, but you have kindly relieved me of it. The Bhattacharya replied, do not go alone to see the deity at the Jagannath temple. It is better that you go with me or my men. The Lord said, I shall never enter the temple, but shall always view the Lord from the side of the Garuda Stamba. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then told Gopinathacharya, take Goswamiji and show him Lord Jagannath. Sarvabhauma then told Gopinathacharya, take Goswamiji and show him Lord Jagannath. Which Goswami? Is he talking about Lord Chaitanya? Anyway, also the apartment belonging to my maternal aunt is in a very solitary place. Make all the arrangements for him to stay there. Is anybody else on the call that I can't see that would like to read? Matthew, are you there?
Sure.
Oh, good. Okay. Text 66.
Thus, Gopinath Acharya took Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his residential quarters and showed him where to find water, tubs, and water pots. Indeed, he arranged everything. The next day, Gopinath Acharya took Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see the early rising of Lord Jagannath. Gopinath Acharya then took Mukunda Datta with him and went to Sarvabhauma's house. When they arrived, Sarvabhauma addressed Mukunda Datta as follows. The sannyasi is very meek and humble by nature, and his person is very beautiful to see. Consequently, my affection for him increases. From which sampradaya has he accepted the sannyasa order, and what is his name?
Okay, back to Suprita. Or anybody else on that wants to read? Go ahead, Suprita.
Gopinath Acharya replied, the Lord's name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and his sannyasa preceptor is the greatly fortunate Keshava Bharati. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, Sri Krishna is a very good name, but he belongs to the Bharati community. Therefore, he is a second-class sannyasi. Gopinath Acharya replied, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not rely on any external formality. There is no need for him to accept the sannyasa order from a superior sampradaya. The Bhattacharya inquired, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in his full-fledged youthful life. How can he keep the principles of sannyasa? I shall continually recite Vedanta philosophy before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so that he may remain fixed in his renunciation and thus enter upon the path of monism.
Muchu?
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then suggested, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would like, I could bring him into a first-class sampradaya by offering him saffron cloth and performing the reformatory process again. Gopinathacharya and Mukunda became very unhappy when they heard this. Gopinathacharya therefore addressed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya as follows. My dear Bhattacharya, you do not know the greatness of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are found in him to the highest degree. Gopinathacharya continued, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is celebrated as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are ignorant of this connection find the conclusion of knowledgeable men very difficult to understand. The disciples of Soma Bhattacharya retaliated. By what evidence do you conclude that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord?
Okay, that's a rational question. And this is going to turn into an interesting discussion. I just want to see if there's a purport to that. Oh, yeah. Let's read this purport. So, everybody open up text 80. The disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya retaliated. By what evidence do you conclude that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord? And everybody take a turn reading 2 sentences. So Trevor, Sporty, then me, then Matthew.
Gopinath Acharya replied, the statements of authorized acharyas who understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are proof. Since the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there have been many pseudo-incarnations in India who do not present authorized evidence.
Sporty, read 2 sentences.
Okay. 500 years ago, the disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, being very learned scholars, were certainly right in asking Gopinath Acharya for evidence. If a person proposes that he himself is God, or that someone else is an incarnation of God or God himself, he must cite evidence from Shastra to prove his claim.
Thus, the request of the Bhattacharya's disciple is quite bona fide. Unfortunately, at the present moment, it has become fashionable to present someone as an incarnation of God without referring to the Shastras. Matthew?
Before an intelligent person accepts someone as an incarnation of God, however, he must ask about the evidence. When the disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya challenged Gopinath Acharya, he immediately replied correctly. We must hear the statements of great personalities in order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Lord Krishna is established as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by statements from many authorized persons such as Brahma, Narada, Vyasadeva, Asita, and Arjuna. Similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also established as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by evidence from the same personalities. This will be explained later.
Hey, Anandi, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you?
I'm listening.
Okay. We want to hear some comments from you, though.
Okay.
You got to say something every time we go around.
Okay.
That's the rules.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the verses. Who read that last 5? Was that Mucho?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So Trevor, go ahead. 5 verses.
The disciples of the Bhattacharya said, we derive knowledge of the absolute truth by logical hypothesis. Gopinath Acharya continued, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by his mercy, not by guesswork or hypothesis. The Acharya continued, if one receives but a tiny bit of the Lord's favor by dint of devotional service, he can understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate in order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Gopinath Acharya then addressed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples. Indeed, there is no other scholar like you on earth. Nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of the Lord's mercy, you cannot understand him, even though he is present in your home.
Hey, so Gopinath is the son-in-law. Anyway, we're going to hear more about it, but this is kind of the way he talks with his father-in-law. He kind of jokes with them and kind of teases him. And he says, you're the smartest person in the world. There is no other scholar like you on earth. Nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of the Lord's mercy, you cannot understand him. And that was based on a quote in the previous verse, was a quote from the Bhagavatam. Atapi te deva padam bhuja dvaya prasada leshanu grihita eva hi. So prasada lesha. Prasad means mercy, and lesha means just a tiny bit. If you get just a tiny bit of the Lord's mercy, then you can understand him. And there were a lot of purports, but we're skipping over them just to keep the story moving. Sporty, go ahead and read.
It is not your fault, it is the verdict of the scriptures. You cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead simply by scholarship. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, My dear Gopinath Acharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Gopinath Acharya replied, Knowledge of the Saman born, the absolute truth, is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Gopinath Acharya continued, You have seen the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the body of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu during his absorption in the ecstatic mood.
Despite directly perceiving the symptoms of the Supreme Lord in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand him. This is commonly called illusion. A person influenced by the external energy is called Bahirmukha Jan, a mundane person, because despite his perception, he cannot understand the real substance. Hearing Gopinath Acharya say this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya smiled and began to speak as follows. Bhattacharya said, we are just having a discussion among friends and considering the points described in the scriptures. Do not become angry. I'm simply speaking on the strength of the Shastras. Please don't take any offense. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly a great, uncommon devotee, but we cannot accept him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, because according to Shastra, there is no incarnation in this age of Kali. Another name for Lord Vishnu is Triyuga, because there is no incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. Indeed, this is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. Matthew?
Upon hearing this, Gopinath Acharya became very unhappy. He said to Bhattacharya, You consider yourself the knower of all Vedic scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata are the two most important Vedic scriptures, but you have paid no attention to their statements. In Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata, it is stated that the Lord appears directly, but you say that in this age there is no manifestation or incarnation of Lord Vishnu. In this age of Kali, there is no Leela avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Triyuga. That is one of his holy names. Gopinath Acharya continued, There is certainly an incarnation in every age, and such an incarnation is called the Yuga avatar. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider all these facts.
Suprita?
In the past, your son has had bodies of 3 different colors according to the age. These colors are white, red, and yellow. In this age, Dwapara Yuga, he has accepted a blackish body. In the
Okay, so
age of
here he's
Kali,
quoting from Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it just sounds like, what's that? And this is, who is it speaking? We'll
Gopinath Acharya.
look up. Right, but it's a quote from the Bhagavatam, spoken by Gargamuni. when he was performing the rituals at Lord Krishna's name-giving ceremony. Gargamuni is looking at the baby Krishna, and he states that the incarnations of the Lord in other ages had been white, red, and yellow. The yellow color refers to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose bodily complexion was yellowish or golden. This confirms that in past Kali Yugas, the Lord also had incarnated in a body that was yellow in hue. Okay, this is the verdict of all Vedic authorities. Okay, so that's Gopinath Acharya quoting from the Vedas. He told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam are the two most important scriptures, but you've ignored them. So he's going to, and then 102 is another quote from the Bhagavatam. Okay, sorry, I had to interrupt.
Okay. In the age of Kali, as well as in Dwapar Yuga, the people offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by various mantras and observe the regulative principles of the supplementary Vedic literatures. Now, please hear of this from me. In this age of Kali, those who are intelligent perform the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in this age, always describing the glories of Krishna. That incarnation is yellowish in hue and is always associated with his plenary expansions, such as Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and personal expansions, such as Gadadhar, as well as his devotees and associates, such as Swarup Damodar. The Lord in the incarnation of Gaura Sundara has a golden complexion. Indeed, his entire body, which is very nicely constituted, is like molten gold. Sandalwood pulp is smeared all over his body. He will take the fourth order of spiritual life, sannyasa, and will be very much self-controlled. He will be distinguished from Mayavadi sannyasis in that he will be fixed in devotional service and will spread the Sankirtan movement.
Okay, that's from the Mahabharata, the Vishnu Sahasranam. Do they chant the Vishnu Sahasranam in Bangalore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So open that up and you can look at it. Suvarna Varna Hemango Varangash Chandanangadi Sanyasa Krichchama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. Okay, so let's see, how many is that? Oh, one more. Go ahead, Suprita.
Gopinath Acharya then said, "There is no need to quote so much evidence from the Shastras, for you are a very dry speculator. There is no need to sow seeds in a barren land."
Ooh, man. He's talking to his father-in-law like that. My speaking all this is just like sowing seeds on barren land. You have no brains. You have no devotion. Okay, Muchu, go ahead.
When the Lord will be pleased with you, you will also understand these conclusions and will quote from the Sastras. The false arguments and philosophical word jugglery of your disciples are not faults of theirs. They have simply received the benediction of Mayavad philosophy. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of unlimited qualities, and whose different potencies bring about agreement and disagreement between disputants. Thus the illusory energy again and again covers the self-realization of both disputants.
That is a quote from the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. Interesting. Yach chaktayo varatam vadinam vai vivada samvada bhuvo bhavanti kurvanti chaisham muhurat moham tasmai namo nanta gunaya bhumne. It's interesting. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's full of unlimited qualities, and whose different potencies bring about agreement and disagreement among disputants. Thus, the illusory energy again and again covers the self-realization of both disputants. When people are fighting over something, Krishna is everything that they say he is.
Is that Queen Kunti?
Well, no, it's the sixth canto. I'm not sure what's going on there. Sixth canto, fourth chapter. Not sure. The beginning part of sixth canto is the story of Ajamil. It may be Yamaraj speaking.
Oh yeah, 'cause Queen Kunti is like first canto or something.
Yeah, first canto.
There's a Bhagavad Gita verse that's similar also, talking about how Krishna, how people are generally bewildered and there are so many arguments and just don't know what is what. Do you know that verse?
Yeah, the four kinds of people who don't surrender to Krishna, and one of them is Mayaya Aparita Jnana.
Yeah.
Their jnana, their knowledge is aparita, it's covered by illusion. And let's see. Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 4. I'm looking at that. It looks like it's a long series of prayers.
There's also another one I was thinking about though, where Krishna's talking about Munis and their arguments and differences of opinion and
Yeah.
along those.
Prabhupada quotes that in the purport to the Bhagavatam verse that we're looking at right now. Tarko pratishta shrutaya vibhina naso rishir yasya matam nabhinnam. All speculators must disagree with other speculators, otherwise, why should there be so many opposing parties concerned with ascertaining the supreme cause? So the speculators, the philosophers, are supposed to come up with something new, which just creates more arguments, and nobody ever comes to a final settlement. And so how can you define the truth that way? And that's what that verse is saying, that you cannot establish the truth by arguments, because you're arguing to dismantle what someone else has said, and you may establish something, but then later on someone's going to come and argue against your presentation. And the rest of that verse is Nasol Rishir Yasya Matam Nabinam. It ends with Mahajana Yenagata Sapanta. There's something about it's deep with it, the truth is hidden deep within the hearts of the devotees. And to get the truth, you have to go to the devotees and access their heart. And so therefore, Mahajana Yenagata Sapanta, you follow the path of the Mahajans, the great people. You're not going to find it by argument. All right, so let's get back in there. I forgot who I interrupted here. Was it Trevor? Were you reading?
It was me.
Oh, well, carry on then.
In almost all cases, whatever learned brahmanas speak becomes accepted. Nothing is impossible for one who takes shelter of my illusory energy and speaks under her influence. After hearing this from Gopinath Acharya, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, first go to the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying and invite him here with his associates. Ask him on my account.
So through all of this teasing and pushing and prodding, Sarvabhauma, he just thinks these people are too much. They're like, yeah, sure, this Chaitanya guy is really nice, but they think he's God. That's a bit too much. Prove it to me. And they're saying, the proof's right in front of you, but you haven't been favored by him yet. And he says, well, what's the proof that you've been favored? And they say, because we're understanding. Uh, so like,
Summum bonum.
yeah, the summum bonum, there's that
Knowledge,
summum bonum again. Hmm?
knowledge of the absolute.
Yeah, summum bonum means the highest good. But Sarvabhauma just thinks, all right, these guys are a bit too much. But at least he's polite about it. They're all staying at his house. He's feeding them. He's giving them a place to stay. And he appreciates Lord Chaitanya's manners, his humility. All right, so go ahead, continue on, Trevor.
Okay. Jagannath Prasad and first give it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. After that, come back here and teach me well. Gopinath Acharya was the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Therefore, the relationship was very sweet and intimate. Under the circumstances, Gopinath Acharya taught him by sometimes blaspheming him, sometimes praising him, and sometimes laughing at him. This had been going on for some time.
Okay, brother-in-law. I've been saying son-in-law, but they're brother-in-law. I'm not sure what's going on, if he's married to Sarvabhauma's sister or what, but somehow they have that connection. Go ahead.
Srila Mukundadat felt very satisfied to hear the conclusive statements of Gopinath Acharya. He became very unhappy and angry to hear the statements put forward by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. According to the instructions of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinath Acharya went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him on the Bhattacharya's behalf. The Bhattacharya's statements were discussed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopinath Acharya and Mukundadat disapproved of the Bhattacharya's statements because they caused mental pain.
Spurti?
Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Do not speak like that. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has shown great affection and mercy towards me. Out of the paternal affection for me, he wants to protect me and see that I follow the regulative principles of a sannyasi. What fault is there in this?" The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya together visited the temple of Lord Jagannath. Both of them were in a very pleasant mood. When they entered the temple, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a seat, while he himself sat down on the floor out of due respect for a sannyasi. He then began to instruct Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Vedanta philosophy, and out of affection and devotion, he spoke to the Lord as follows.
The Bhattacharya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy is a sannyasi's main business. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation from a superior person. Lord Chaitanya replied, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. Thus for 7 days continually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything and did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacharya. On the 8th day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you've been listening to Vedanta philosophy from me continually for 7 days. You have simply been listening, fixed in your silence, since you do not say whether Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool, and consequently I do not study the Vedanta Sutra. I am just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me. Only for the sake of executing the duties of the renounced order of sannyas do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning you are presenting. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I accept that you do not understand. Yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. You are hearing again and again, yet you keep silent. I cannot understand what is actually within your mind. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have simply agitated my mind.
Suma?
Myself?
Yeah.
Okay. The meaning of the aphorisms in the Vedanta Sutra contain clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply covered the meaning of the sutras like a cloud. You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover their real meaning. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Vedanta Sutra is the summary of all the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra or Vyasa Sutra. For each sutra, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretation. How many do I read?
One more.
Oh. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly are first-class evidence.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, corn shells and cow dung are nothing but the bones and stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic vision, they are both considered very pure. The Vedic statements are self-evident. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. If we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Brahma Sutra compiled by Srila Vyasadeva is as radiant as the sun. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers that sunshine with a cloud. All the Vedas and literature that strictly follows the Vedic principles explain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full with all opulences. You're trying to explain him as impersonal and formless.
To me,
Yeah.
wherever there is an impersonal description in the Vedas mean to establish that everything belonging to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and free of mundane characteristics. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, whatever Vedic mantras describe the Absolute Truth impersonally only prove in the end that the Absolute Truth is a person. The Supreme Lord is understood in two features, impersonal and personal. If one considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead in both features, he can actually understand the Absolute Truth. He knows that the personal understanding is stronger because we see that everything is full of variety. No one can see anything that is not full of variety. Everything in the cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, remains in the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation, again enters the Absolute Truth. The personal features of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are characterized in three cases, namely ablative, instrumental, and locative. Whoa. Is there a purport to that?
I don't know. I was hoping Anandi could open that up for us.
Yeah, I'll break them.
She's English major.
I hear and I sometimes hear you and sometimes don't.
Oh no.
Yeah.
The purport is there, but it looks really technical. I don't think it's going to help us understand what ablative, instrumental, and locative means.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead wished to become energy, he glanced over the material energy. Before the creation, there were no mundane eyes or mind. Therefore, the transcendental nature of the Absolute Truth's mind and eyes is confirmed.
The word Brahman indicates the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Sri Krishna. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. The confidential meaning of the Vedas is not easily understood by common men. Therefore, that meaning is supplemented by the words of the Puranas. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. There is no limit to their fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal Supreme Brahman, has become their friend. The Vedic Apanipad mantra rejects material hands and legs, yet it states that the Lord goes very fast and accepts everything offered to him.
All these mantras confirm that absolute truth is personal, but the Mayavadis, throwing away the direct meaning, interpret the absolute truth as impersonal. Are you describing as formless that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is complete with 6 transcendental opulences? The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary potencies. Are you trying to prove that he has no potencies? The internal potency of the Supreme Lord Vishnu is spiritual as verified by the Shastras. There is another spiritual potency known as Kshetra Gnana, or the living entity. The third potency is, which is known as the nescience, makes the living entity godless and fills him with fruitive activity. O King, the Kshetra Gnana Shakti is the living entity. Although he has the facility to live in either the material or the spiritual world, he suffers the threefold miseries of material existence because he is influenced by the avidya, nescience potency, which covers his constitutional position.
Hey, how's everybody doing? You all hanging in there? This part's a little rich with the philosophy. What's that, Matthew?
I said, doing good.
Okay. It's a little rich here, but then it gets into the story pretty soon. And all of these points, just reading them over and over again and hearing long lectures that unpack these, each one of these verses, you could have a long lecture on to unpack what that is and what the importance is compared to the understanding that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has. And Lord Chaitanya is addressing that point by point. All right, so I'll continue on. 156. Anandi, do you have anything to say?
I have lots to say, but I'll think about it first.
Okay. We want to hear from you.
I really like how it says that the truth is a person, and he repeated that several times. And I mean, it's kind of a basic teaching of Prabhupada, but it's something that a lot of people don't understand.
The truth is a person. Where do you see that? Let's look at one of the examples.
Oh, well, it was in a couple of verses, maybe 10 or 20 verses ago.
Oh.
The absolute truth is a person.
Okay.
The Apanipada mantra, is that from the Isha Upanishad?
Okay, text 150. The Vedic Apanipada mantra let's open that. Let's see. Nope, no purport to that. Apanipadam, Jahavo Jagriyam, something like that. It's from the Upanishads. It's not from the Ishopanishad, though.
Shruti.
But it says Apani. So these are people that know all of the Vedas. He just has to give like the first two words of a verse, and they know what they're talking about. Oh yeah, that one. When we read Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, he addresses all of these things in the let's see which Sandarbha. Anyway, he's addressing all of these points, and he's presenting, okay, here, and there's a verse called there's a Sandarbha called the Paramatma Sandarbha and the Bhagavat Sandarbha. And someone asked, okay, so you got Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Why did you not bother writing a Brahman Sandarbha? And he said, well, Shankaracharya has already done such a good job of that, presenting Brahman. There's no reason to bring it up. And sometimes in his presentation, he'll say, this verse means this based on the logic that Shankaracharya uses in this particular verse. And he'll just give like two words from it. And like the people that are studying this, the audience, they get it. They know that. Oh yeah, I've heard that verse. I've heard long lectures on it, and I've meditated on it. I've reflected on it. I've given long lectures on it myself. So they know what he's talking about just by saying Apanipadam. The rest of that verse is, as he says there in the translation, the Apanipada mantra rejects material hands and legs, yet it states that the Lord goes very fast and accepts everything offered to him. So he has no material hands, no material legs. Material legs can't go very fast, but the Lord can go everywhere very quickly. So that's the point he's bringing up there. When mantras say something that appears to be formless, it's just to show that his form is entirely different from anything we have experience of. The next verse after that, 151, all these mantras confirm that the absolute truth is personal. But the Mayavadis, throwing away the direct meaning, interpret the absolute truth as impersonal. Okay, I could go off on a long tangent here about...
Please do.
You want that tangent?
Yes, because I mean, I don't understand this thing between the Mayavadis. I mean, why do we have to have such conflicts? I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
And also,
Sorry.
All right.
what's this thing against Shankaracharya?
Okay, let's see what Trevor's got, and then
I was just wondering if this was like eternal, Leela, like the last chapter.
I don't know. You said something about eternal, and then we got into a echo.
Yeah, sorry. The where he said that the two Brahmins were kind of eternally situated. Is this the same type of Leela?
Oh,
You know, does he grant Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya this position eternally so that he can
always
bring him to the platform of devotional service?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't think so. I don't think that this is a Nitya Leela for him. I don't know. Let's keep that in mind. Let's watch for it as we read on. I don't remember hearing that. But those two Brahmins, the Lord told them that you are my eternal servitors. You do this lifetime after lifetime. So addressing what Shankaracharya is about. Oh boy, this would be a really long tangent. I'll touch on it briefly, and I'll refer you to lecture if you want to listen to that, Anandi. It really opens it up. It's a, let's see, yeah, 2 or 3 lectures by Radhika Raman about Mayavadi philosophy. The glories of Mayavadi philosophy. I think that's what he called it. And so he's talking about, this is what Shankaracharya says, and this is why he says it, and this is where he's coming from. And yeah, I listened to it twice, hoping that I would be able to repeat it. Let's see. What Shankaracharya says is that what they're trying to do is find out there are some things that we can understand and some things that are inconceivable. Every philosophy has that because the whole thing will not fit together. And what Shankaracharya tends to do is say everything with variety is illusion, and our life here is inconceivable. Let's see. No, I'm doing an awful job on this. I'll have to go back and listen to it again. When I heard it, it was like, okay, I sort of get it. It's different schools of thought taking what's in the Vedas, trying to make some kind of sense from it, because you take the whole package and it doesn't quite fit together. Therefore, in our package, we have this idea that it is achintya. That's the first thing. Veda, abheda. That it's both, we're different and separate, we're internally individual, and yet everything is the same. And it's inconceivable that all of that works out. Sarva, or Shankaracharya, he says that everything is God and that we are God. Everything is God. We don't become God. We already are God. It's just that we are in illusion. And the world around us is illusion. And so like, that's the only thing that we have, what's right in front of us. And just to say that that's an illusion, it doesn't really appeal to our sensibilities. Also, it's a big thing for him that there are no Shakti. Everything is just one energy. So that's why the Shakti verse keeps coming up. Where did that go? Talked about the 3 energies, the Yutragya. I remember Sporty read that. There it is, 154. And if we look at the Sanskrit for that, it's a little easier to understand for me. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakya Tatapara. So this one's always quoted. After listening to Radhika Raman's presentation, it made a little more sense why this keeps coming up, because it's a really important part of their philosophy, the Shankaracharya's presentation, that there is no Shakti. It's all just Brahman. Everything is Brahman. There's no differentiation.
I don't think that's true. That's not true that Shankaracharya says that's no Shakti. Because in the lineage that I come from, we get Shaktipat, Diksha.
Mm-hmm.
And Shankaracharya also wrote the very famous song called Bhaja Govindam.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I just don't get this emphasis on putting down the Mayavadis. Like this, it seems a little obsessive to me, because the Mayavadis don't really put a lot of emphasis on putting down anybody else. Not really.
Okay.
Just, it just bothers me.
Yeah. All right. So I'll maybe I'll find that lecture. I'll listen to it. And it looks like Muchos might be giving us the feedback. I keep getting a little echo. I notice your screen.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm not into putting anybody down either. I'm only explaining this because it's here, and because you asked.
Right, but you understand, it's something that bothers me. I didn't say that, you
Yeah.
were doing it. It's just that, like I said, there seems to be an undue emphasis. Like I've even been in some, temples, and some very famous people are like, oh, the Buddhists, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't Buddha one of the incarnations of Krishna? I mean, nobody else like put such an emphasis on like, ours is the only way, or not
Yeah.
to mine. I guess I'm not that type of girl. I mean, like, even though I think that some Hare Krishnas would think that we're Mayavadis. I mean, we sang Bhaja Govindam, we sang the Maha Mantra, we got Shaktipat, we believe everybody and everything, all paths lead to the same God. We just call it different things, same consciousness. We love Krishna, we love Prasadam. We have a lot of things in common.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't like
Mhm.
to pick fights, but for some reason, this was really deeply established by the Goswamis and by Lord Chaitanya and by Srila Prabhupada. And so I'm just kind of passing down, and I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand it myself. But
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand
yeah,
too.
I saw this coming. I knew you were going to do that.
I'm sorry.
It seems to be part of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and then maybe it's just passed down that maybe that's just part of the way that the playful nature of Krishna is manifesting in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, that he's debating with these different scholars in different areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a time period where there would be debates and based on logic, and that was kind of how they would establish what truth is, even though we just read that verse about you don't establish truth by argument. Yet they would do that. They would argue and present different points. And Lord Chaitanya was very good at presenting arguments. There are the, what is it called? The six darshans, the sad darshans, six philosophical thought processes. Kapila, Patanjali. So Kapila is Sankhya, Patanjali is Yoga,
Yaya.
Karma Mimamsha. What else? I got three of them, halfway there. So all of the different thought processes, Lord Chaitanya could take any one of them and he'd present things and build the whole thing up, and everybody would be like, that's right, okay. And then he would tear the whole thing down and put up something else. And with his arguments, with his presentations, he could convince anybody of anything. But then, and he took to bhakti, and then he just became much more quiet and humble. So here he sits for 7 days listening to this. And what he's saying is, you're speaking the words from the Vedanta Sutra, but then your explanations, you're very creative, but you're just like putting clouds in front of the clear meaning. That's the point that he's giving. And let's see, how many more? I know we're getting kind of late here. What verse were we on? We got to find a good stopping point. Oh boy, it just goes deep into philosophy.
160.
Yeah, 160. And I think it was
156.
156. Who's reading? Is it Sporty still reading, or?
She finished.
Forty finished 155.
Oh, okay.
155. I finished 155.
It's my turn. Let's go through one more round and let's just see what goes on. I can't leave you guys here stuck in the middle of the philosophy. We got to get to the story. That's what we're in here for. This living entity, covered by the influence of nescience, exists in different forms in the material condition. O king, he is thus proportionately freed from the influence of material energy to a greater or lesser degree. Another quote from somewhere. Another long one. We're going to skip this. Let's move. Enough philosophy, because you can only take so much. 167. One who does not accept the transcendental form of the Lord is certainly an agnostic. Such a person should be neither seen nor touched. Indeed, he is subject to be punished by Yamraj. And that's a quote from something.
Give some.
So the Vedanta Sutra 170. The Vedanta Sutra aims at establishing that the cosmic manifestation has come into being by the transformation of the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The touchstone, after touching iron, produces volumes of gold without being changed. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself as the cosmic manifestation by his inconceivable potency, yet he remains unchanged in his eternal transcendental form. Go ahead, Matthew, 172.
Shankaracharya states that the theory of transformation presented in the Vedanta Sutra implies that the absolute truth itself is transformed. In this way, the Mayavadi philosophers denigrate Srila Vyasadeva by accusing him of error. Thus, they find fault in the Vedanta Sutra and misinterpret it to try to establish the theory of illusion. The theory of illusion can be applied only when the living entity identifies himself with the body. As far as the cosmic manifestation is concerned, it cannot be called false, although it is certainly temporary. The transcendental vibration Omkar is the sound form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All Vedic knowledge and this cosmic manifestation are produced from this sound representation of the Supreme Lord. The subsidiary vibration Tat Tvam Asi, you are the same, is meant for the understanding of the living entity, but the principal vibration is Omkar. Not caring for Omkar, Shankaracharya has stressed the vibration Tat Tvam Asi.
Is Suma still with us? I don't think so. Go ahead, Suprita. We'll go through a couple more people.
Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu criticized Shankaracharya's Sharirika Bhashya as imaginary, and he pointed out hundreds of faults in it. To defend Shankaracharya, however, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya presented unlimited opposition. The Bhattacharya presented various types of false arguments with pseudo-logic and tried to defeat his opponent in many ways. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all these arguments and established his own conviction. Mahaprabhu continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the central point of all relationships. Acting in devotional service to Him is one real occupation, and the attainment of love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. These three subject matters are described in the Vedic literature. If one tries to explain the Vedic literature in a different way, he is indulging in imagination. Any interpretation of the self-evident Vedic version is simply imaginary. Actually, there is no fault on the part of Shankaracharya. He simply carried out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had to imagine some kind of interpretation, and therefore he presented a kind of Vedic literature that is full of atheism.
Mocha, you have to unmute. Oh no, what happened to Mocha?
Addressing Lord Shiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Please make the general populace averse to me by imagining your own interpretation of the Vedas. Also, cover me in such a way that people will take more interest in advancing material civilization just to propagate the population bereft of spiritual knowledge." Wow. Lord Shiva informed Goddess Durga, the superintendent of the material world. In the age of Kali, I take the form of a Brahmana and explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very much astonished upon hearing this. He became stunned and said nothing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told him, "I do not be astonished. Actually, devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest perfection of human activity. Even the self-satisfied sages perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Such are the transcendental qualities of the Lord. They are full of inconceivable spiritual potency."
Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. After hearing the Atmaram verse, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My dear sir, please explain this verse. I have a great desire to hear your explanation of it." The Lord replied, "First let me hear your explanation. After that, I shall try to explain what little I know." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then began to explain the Atmaram verse. And according to the principles of logic, he put forward various propositions. The Bhattacharya explained the Atmaram verse in 9 different ways on the basis of scripture. After hearing his explanation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, smiling a little, began to speak.
Sporty.
Sorry, can I just know which verse?
192. Or wait, 191.
Okay, yeah. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Bhattacharya, you're exactly like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly kingdom. Indeed, no one within this world has the power to explain the scriptures in such a way. My dear Bhattacharya, you have certainly explained this verse by the prowess of your vast learning, but you should know that besides this scholarly explanation, there is another purport to this verse." Upon the request of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain the verse without touching upon the 9 explanations given by the Bhattacharya. There are 11 words in the Atmarama verse, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained each word one after the other. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took each word specifically and combined it with the word Atmarama. He thus explained the word Atmarama in 18 different ways.
Okay, we're going to end here. A cliffhanger. Because once we break into the Atmarama verse, what that verse says is people who are Atmarama, self-realized, Brahman realized, they're still attracted to Krishna, which means Krishna is even more attractive than Brahman. And that's the meaning of what he's talking about here. When Sarvabhauma hears Lord Chaitanya's presentation, he realizes this guy is beyond genius, because Sarvabhauma is like super genius guy. Who's a genius nowadays? Who's well known? I mean, everybody knows Einstein, but who else do we have?
Elon.
Who?
Elon Musk.
She said Elon Musk.
Oh, Elon Musk. Okay. Well, he's pretty sharp, but I mean, like somebody super brilliant that just does long math equations in their head and can memorize
Stephen
things.
Hawking.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of there's not a lot of them, but Sarvabhauma is one of those kinds of people. And so when he hears Lord Chaitanya speaking, he realizes this is a whole other level of understanding. And then he starts offering prayers. Oh my God, now I see what Gopinath Acharya was talking about. Now I get it. Please forgive me. I offer my prayers to you. And then Lord Chaitanya shows him his form. So I don't want to give away too much of the story, but I hope you'll come back tomorrow night. I have to go take a phone call right now.